recorded prehistory, Iran, or Persia at the time, established one of the world's first armies. By the late Qatar dynasty, Persia had formed the world's first unified military consisting of the ground, naval, and air forces. So in the 3rd millennia BC, the original army was formed, and in 1921 the first modern unified army was formed as the Imperial Iranian Army. Iran's military is ranked as the 14th most powerful armed forces in the entire world. This is based on the website Global Firepower. It lost its 13th spot due to the US sanctions that was placed on Iran in August of 2018. The Iranian armed forces are made up of the Army, or the Artesh, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is commonly referred to as the IRGC, as well as the law enforcement force. According to the latest numbers, Iran's defense budget was $19.6 billion US, and these are based on the latest numbers of 2018. Now, getting a little bit into the IRGC, so it's not just a military force, it's also a huge political and economic power in Iran. It was founded after the Iranian Revolution on April 22nd, 1979 by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. So to clear up any confusion on how it's different from the Iranian army, well, let me explain a little bit. The Iranian army defends Iranian borders as well as maintains internal order. Now, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps aims to protect Iran's Islamic Republic political system. They protect the political system by preventing foreign interference and preventing coups by the military, or what is referred to as deviant movements. The IRGC has a massive commercial arm as well, and it's involved in industrial construction, shipping, telecommunications, as well as media. It oversees Iran's sensitive covert operations and much of its foreign intelligence gathering from Latin America as well as Southeast Asia. It also controls Iran's ballistic missile program, and it maintains relationships with Iran's closest allies as well as its clients. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at is the manpower of the Iranian military. They have an available manpower of 47,324,105 people, and they have a total military personnel of 870,000, and they have an active personnel count of 523,000. They have 350,000 personnel in reserve. Next up is the air power of Iran. Their total aircraft strength sits at 509. They have 142 fighter jets, 165 attack aircraft. Their transport aircraft total is at 89. They have 104 total trainer aircraft, and their total helicopter strength sits at 126, and they got 12 attack helicopters. So what does their land power look like? Well, let's take a look. Combat tanks, they have 1,634 in total. They have 2,345 armored fighting vehicles, 570 self-propelled artillery. Their total artillery count is at 2,128, and they have 1,900 rocket projectors, so they're pretty stacked in the land power. In terms of their naval strength, they have 398 total naval assets. They don't carry any aircraft carriers. They have 6 frigates, no destroyers however, but they do have 3 corvettes, 34 submarines, 88 patrol vessels, and their mine warfare count sits at 3. Now, after a coup in 1953, Iran began purchasing some weapons from Israel, as well as they started purchasing from the United States and other countries, but later Iran began establishing its own armament industry. One of the big reasons for this is because Iran has been under a 4-decade-long US arms embargo, as well as there was another restriction added by the UN in 2006. This forced Iran to rely a lot on producing their own weaponry. Meanwhile, their rivals are provided with Western military systems just like that. In order to compensate for this weakness, Iran had to rely on asymmetric capabilities. The next thing to note is that the Iranian government also has a military show, and it happens every single April 18. They also often show off new defense technologies. The Iranian Armed Forces honor the country's National Army Day by annual parading in many cities of Iran. It's a huge event. We have the Khorramshahr. Iran's Khorramshahr missile is believed to come from North Korea's Musdan, the BM-25, and reports indicate that North Korea was developing a ground-based R-27, which is now called a Musdan, as early as 2003, and Iran likely purchased 18 of these missiles from North Korea back in 2005. And now Iran first tested the Musdan on May 17, 2007, and again on April and July 2016. Iran then modified the missile and renamed it the Khorramshahr, and the missile has a range of 2,000 kilometers and is capable of carrying multiple warheads of up to 1,800 kilograms. Qiam-1 is up next at number 9. Now the Qiam-1 is a variant of Iran's Shahab-2, the Scud-C variant, and this is a short-range ballistic missile. According to one analyst, Iran began modifying some of its Shahab-2 missiles in the year 2010 to create the Qiam-1 SRBM. Now the biggest modification in the Qiam-1 is having no tail fins, which implies that the missile is actually equipped with an improved guidance system that can more quickly detect and correct changes in its trajectory. Now let's look at the Zulfagar. The Zulfagar is an Iranian short-range solid fuel ballistic missile, and the missile has a reported range of 700 kilometers. Back on February 7th of 2019, it was reported that Iran brought in service a new longer range version of the Zulfagar called the Desvol, and the Desvol has a reported range of 1,000 kilometers. The next missile is the Sejil. It carries a payload of 500 to 1,000 kilograms, and it's presumably that the missile carries HE warheads or high explosives until Iran gains nuclear warheads. Now the missile has a maximum range of 2,000 kilometers, and its use of solid propellant is a major improvement on the Shahab design. The solid propellant allows a near immediate launch time, which makes the missile much less vulnerable when it's launching. Then we have the Shahab-2 Scud-C variant. The Shahab-2 is an Iranian variant of the Russian SS-1D Scud-C, and it's a single-stage liquid-propelled short-range ballistic missile. Its maximum range is 500 kilometers, and it carries a single warhead with a maximum payload of 770 kilograms. Halfway in at number 5, we have the Fateh 110 missile. Now the Fateh 110 is a short-range, road-mobile, solid propellant ballistic missile. Try saying that 3 times fast. Now it's most likely a modified version of the unguided Zelzal 2 with an addition of control and guidance systems. The missile is actually believed to use parts from Chinese contractors, although it is made in Iran. It uses a single-stage solid propellant engine, and it has a range of 210 kilometers. Next up, let's look at the Tundar 69. These Chinese M7 was originally designed from the Soviet S-75 surface-to-air missiles, and Iran reportedly purchased 200 M7s and renamed the system Tundar 69, which translates to Thunder 69. Now the missile has a reported length of 10.8 meters and a body diameter of 0.65, and has a launch weight of 2,650 kilograms. It can carry a single 250 kilogram high explosive warhead. It's a 2-stage missile, and the Tundar 69 has a maximum range of 150 kilometers and uses solid fuel. It also employs inertial navigation system guidance with command updates. The Sumar is up next. Now it is believed that the Sumar is a copy of the Russian Kh-55, but one major difference though is that the Sumar is equipped with a solid rocket booster, which makes it a ground launch missile rather than an air launch missile like the Russian Kh-55. The missile is said to have a range of between 2,500 kilometers and 3,000 kilometers. The Rahad comes at number 2. Now the Rahad is an Iranian anti-ship cruise missile of Chinese origin. Rahad entered into service in 2007 and has a reported range of 350 kilometers. The Rahad has a reported length of 7.36 meters and has a launch weight of approximately 3,000 kilograms. Its payload weight is between 450 to 500 kilograms, and it uses a solid propellant booster and turbojet engine. And the cool thing about this, it also has sea skimming abilities. Well, it's reported that it does, and that means it can fly at low ranges above water to hit enemy crafts in the sea. And the final missile we're looking at is the Koksan M1978. This took design elements from both Russian coastal artillery and Chinese Type 59 MBT, and this missile was one of the longest range self-propelled artillery guns of the 1970s, capable of firing munitions missions 40 to 60 kilometers. The M1978 is 14.9 meters in length and 3.2 meters in width, and it weighs 40 metric tons. Now the missile can fire 1 to 2 rounds every 5 minutes. Now the range of the missile using a standard HE frag armament is 40 kilometers, and a rocket assisted HE frag shell could be fired up to 60 kilometers. And the cool thing about it also can be used to create a smoke screen. At number 10 we have the Hisa Azarkesh. The Azarkesh is Iran's first domestically built combat jet, and it's widely regarded as the reverse engine variant of the Northrop F-5 Freedom Fighter or the Tiger II. And the Azarkesh was developed in Isfahan by the Iranian Army, the Defense Ministry, and the aircraft manufacturing company Hisa. It's a strike fighter, and it was introduced in January 1st of 1997. Next up we have the Chengdu J-7. The Chengdu J-7 is a Chinese licensed built version of the Soviet Mikoyan Gurevich MiG-21. Although production did stop in the year 2013, it does continue to be in service, mostly as an interceptor aircraft, and it serves in several air forces including China's. Now this aircraft was developed into the CAC-PAC JF-17 Thunder. Pakistan uses that aircraft as well, but yeah, Iran has their own version of it. The Hisa Dorna is at number 8. Now the Dorna is a jet-powered Iranian trainer aircraft, and the aircraft was publicized first in the year 1999 when the Iranian Air Force General at the time claimed that a locally designed Dorna trainer aircraft had actually had production start. So more specifically, this is a light trainer, and it was introduced in January 1st of 2006 into service. Then there's the Panha 2091. The Panha 2091 Tufan is an Iranian overhaul and upgrade of the Bell AH-1J Cobra light attack helicopters, and it was purchased before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. And where it got its number from in its name, that's actually what the upgrade and overhaul program was titled, and it was created by the Iranian Helicopter Support and Renewal Company. Number 6 brings us the Hawker Hind. This is a British aircraft that was a Royal Air Force light bomber of the interwar years, and it was produced by Hawker Aircraft. It was developed from the Hawker Hart Day bomber, and that was introduced way back in the year 1931. So this one is a classic, and it was introduced into service on January 1st of 1935. The Panha Shabaviz 2061 is up next, and this aircraft is an Iranian-produced attack helicopter, and it's used by the Air Force of the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's an unlicensed, reverse-engineered, and upgraded version of the Bell 206 Jet Ranger. Number 4 brings us the Grumman F-14 Tomcat, really popular one. The F-14 Tomcat is a supersonic twin-jet, 2-seat variable sweep wing fighter aircraft. And now the Tomcat was actually developed for the United States Navy's Naval Fighter Experimental Program, and that followed the end of the F-111B project. Now the F-14 was the first American teen series fighter, and it was designed incorporating the experience of air combat against MiG fighters during the Vietnam War. So definitely very powerful aircraft, very capable. We have the Ouch Tavarzi up next. Now the Tavarzi is an Iranian-made jet trainer aircraft, and it was first revealed during the Iran Air Show way back in 2002. Now Iran began a program to develop a jet trainer aircraft in early 1990s, and the Tazarvi is a small aircraft, and it's powered by a single General Electric J85 jet engine, and it was purchased from the existing Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force stocks. And number 2 brings us the Hisa Seike. So the Seike, alternatively spelled Saike, as well as some other variant spellings. This is an Iranian-built single-seat jet fighter derived from the American Northrop F-5. Now this was a joint product of the Iranian Air Force and the Iranian Ministry of Defense, and it's the second generation of the Iranian Azarkesh fighters. And then finally, number 1, we have the Sukhoi Su-24. This is a supersonic all-weather attack aircraft, and it was developed by the Soviet Union. This variable sweep wing twin-engine side-by-side 2-seater carried the USSR's first integrated digital navigation and attack systems. Now it remains in service with former Soviet air forces and various air forces to which it was exported. reported to. And this was introduced into service in January of 1974. So also another classic aircraft. So the first thing I want to share is that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, that's what the IRGC stands for, is an elite wing of the Iranian military that was established after the country's revolution in the year 1979. Now they have several branches. There's a joint staff, the ground forces, the aerospace force, the navy, the Quds force, and the Basij mobilization force. For the Iranian army, what they do, they defend Iranians' borders and they actually maintain internal order. But based on the Iranian constitution, their Revolutionary Guard, they're intended to actually protect the country's Islamic Republic political system. The IRGC say that their role is to protect the Islamic system in preventing foreign interference as well as preventing any coups that may rise up in Iran. There are also more than 150,000 troops in the IRGC, and this is according to the Council of Foreign Relations. Now these include, like I mentioned, the ground forces, the naval and air forces, as well as intelligence and special forces. Their main role is the internal security, and they're considered to be Iran's dominant military force, and some estimates say that their troops actually go up to 350,000 men. Now, shortly after the revolution in the year 1979, before it was really heavily involved in law, the IRGC operated as a network of militant activists that were very loyal to the leader Ruhollah Khomeini at the time. And their role in this capacity really helped to stamp out anything that may have risen up against the supreme leader. Now the IRGC really views itself as preserving the Islamic Republic form of government created by Khomeini and does its best to implement the instructions of the supreme leader for the years then on. Now fast forward decades later, shortly before June of 2013's presidential election in Iran, the IRGC commandos reportedly made it very clear through their public statements that they would only confirm a president who is loyal to Khomeini. That's how much influence they have in the nation. Now one thing to note is that the IRGC has a massive commercial arm, and they're heavily involved in construction, shipping, as well as the media and telecommunications. It also oversees Iran's sensitive covert operations, and it controls Iran's most important strategic deterrent, its ballistic missile program, and facilitates relations with Iran's closest allies. The IRGC sees Western influence as its biggest challenge. Their view of democracy is that it's problematic, and that's why they oppose it so much. The regime, of course, promotes conservative Islamic values, and to the IRGC, the intrusion of Western influence is a form of actual cultural warfare. Now, like I mentioned, one of their branches is the Basij, and the Basij actually exists in every single level of schooling, all the way from primary up to university levels. And they exist in all government offices, as well as businesses, as well as in neighborhood mosques throughout Iran to really help enforce that conservative Islamic values are upheld in every aspect of society. One of the branches also is the Quds Force, and that's a unit in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and they specialize in unconventional warfare and military intelligence operations. Now, it was commanded by the Major General Qasem Soleimani until he lost his life in a US drone strike at Baghdad International Airport earlier in January 2020. Now, the Quds Force as an organization is comparable to like a mix of the CIA and the Joint Special Operations Command in the United States. Also, a large portion of the IRGC's current leadership really started off as volunteers in the Iran and Iraqi war. One thing to know that the IRGC and its Basij wing lost more lives than any other in the war. And then since the end of that war, the IRGC has formed its politics to ensure that those who lost their lives in that war are honored and they're not overlooked, and they do their best to not be compromised by anything that may interfere with the moral, political, cultural fiber of Iran from countries like America. Now, in the year 2007, the US Treasury Department actually designated the Quds Force as a major terror threat. After the US President Donald Trump took office, he actually withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, and he started to really go after Iran's influence in the Middle East, and he reimposed strict sanctions on them, really to slow down the influence of the IRGC. Also, US allies in the region considered the IRGC as a major threat. Now, the final thing I want to share is that the IRGC is the third wealthiest organization in Iran after the National Iranian Oil Company and the Imam Reza Endowment. Now, due to their enormous wealth, the IRGC is able to use a very simple recruitment tactic. tactic: money. They go after the young and pay them money, like, hey, here you go. The IRGC has opened up several schools throughout the country of Iran, and graduates went on to join the IRGC and the Basij unit.